effective as a result of hyper-partisan, hyper-polarized politics at home. Similarly, the international order, the normative glue that held the world together, the institutional frameworks that channeled various different international views, but then sort of through the international institutions like the United Nations or other frameworks would come up with some sort of conclusion as a result, once again, of our hyper-partisanship, hyper-polarization. Those international institutions, those international normative frameworks, the way that we've been approaching the world has been fragmented, undermined, and as a result, we're seeing what we're seeing, both here in Europe, but also an increase in tensions everywhere. I don't think that the blame rests at any one country's door. I mean, I believe that whether it is sort of from the time of Iraq or otherwise, perhaps we ourselves also have undermined those international institutions. But whatever the reasoning, the old international order, the old normative order for us to, for our dispute resolutions has clearly failed. And as a result, you now see the first war in mainland Europe after the Second World War, which has global consequences. What we would like to see is obviously a return to a more institutional, normative functioning internationally, as well as domestic, so we could work together to solve issues. Here at WEF, I believe we're discussing, there's a lot of discussion about what the new world order will be, or how, even in the context of our new Helsinki, how do we work towards that new normative international order that allows us to address our differences and disputes as the civilized world. And I believe perhaps we are at the moment in such a hyper-partisan, hyper-polarized time that we're not going to be able to form that new Helsinki today. But I hope going forward we are able to do, I mean, we must form and improve our normative and international institutional order internationally so that we can address these complaints. I hope this time round, once we're building this new world order or new rules-based order, the voice of the global south and the developing world is included. Because we must understand that the way that the international order is constructed, whether it's international financial institutions or other international institutions, they were constructed by the West at the times of, colonialism, and when the world was a very different place. So to meet the challenges of today, and in order to construct an order that has the buy-in of the international world, we do hope that the global South has their voices heard, has their perspective included. And if we do go down that path, where you have not only the global North, but also the global South as stakeholders in a new international order, then there are higher chances that it'll be successful.
I want to come back to that in a bit, but sure. Representative Hartman, let me go to you. And while you have, I don't know if it's an easier or harder job of not having to officially represent your government here.
If Free you could, at last.
Exactly. But if we could bring in the U.S.-China dynamic as well, because I think that if we were sitting in Washington or Beijing, that would be so to this conversation.
Okay, I thought we were going to do a Eurocentric conversation, but that's all right. Let me first enthusiastically endorse the last comments that were made. And when we get to the end of this conversation and talk about a new world order, the global South is in the world, and I think we may have overlooked that a bit. Going back, I'd also point out Pakistan's origins, carved out of India and the colonial past of India. It's a big transition. But let me say one thing about the old Helsinki, because I actually went back and looked at what the tenets of whether it was unpopular or not, 3 tenets: inviolability of European frontiers, reject the use of force or intervention in internal affairs, and respect human rights. Well, I don't think that framework is so bad, by the way. And it actually was sort of kind of observed for a while. I just want to make one point.
नाज़रीन, वज़ीर ख़ारिजा बिलावल भुट्टो ज़रदारी डेवॉस में जियो पोलिटिकल सूरत हाल में सिक्योरिटी और कोऑर्डिनेशन के मौजू पर खिताब कर रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा कि उम्मीद करते